Hello, hello, hello. Dr. Brett Spradlin, we are at Divine Design Natural Health. It's May of 2026, and we are going to talk about a topic that is absolutely going crazy as of the last 6 years, way longer than that. However, in the last 6 years, it's been at the forefront of everyone's mind. I have good news and I have bad news. You want the good news or the bad news?
Pick them both.
Well, the good news is this is going to blow your mind, and it is a great, you're going to be able to use a lot of practical stuff from this. The bad news is it's 4 hours.
Anybody going to fall out the window?
So the other good news is that oh, by the way, do we have anybody that wants to learn here?
Yes.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. I forgot to ask. So the other good news is that I had to split it into two pieces. I had to. This is the first time I've ever really said, I just cannot do this all. I won't have a voice and nobody will have attention span. And so we're going to break it up into two. So what I've done is I've put a dividing mark in it so that you get the gist of everything that we're going to cover. But on part 2, which is going to be June, whatever it is, 15th. On June 15th, the week that we go, the week that we leave, the week that everything still runs, but I'm gone, that June 15th, you're going to get part 2. And that will put the missing pieces in succinctly, and you will be able to come out of that swinging for the fences. And I'm already going to give you a lot of stuff to look at tonight. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a barn burner. I'm telling you, it is a lot of stuff, but I have I've stood on the shoulders of giants for this one. There's a lot of people that I need to give credit to for all this stuff because they've had to be very brave standing up against the powers that be, saying something as provocative as there is no virus. This is a big thing. So let's get right into it. You don't have a virus. What you're going to learn tonight, it's a lot of stuff. Let's bail through this. Of course, we have to do the monthly housekeeping. I would recommend doing your housekeeping more than that, but we only do one of these classes a month. You get my point. Medical theories of disease. You'll see how misplaced and stupid they've been over hundreds of years. We're going to have advice from the New England Journal of Medicine. That's the biggest journal in the United States. We're going to get some advice from the Lancet. That's the biggest journal in England. And we're going to talk to the Journal of the American Medical Association people, and we're going to talk to Johns Hopkins. We're going to get some advice from these people, and we're going to say, how much credence should we give articles, journals, research, headlines in the newspaper that say a new study says, how much credence should we really give them? We're going to take advice from 3 people. Then we're going to talk about Stefan Lanka on the subject of viruses. We're going to talk about Cook's postulates. You probably might already know that from high school and college biology, I'm sure. Louis Pasteur, the father of the germ theory. We'll talk about him a little bit. You already know his name. We've talked about him quite a bit before. We've talked about this quite a bit before, germ theory versus terrain theory, but it bears repeating because we're talking about viruses, not just bacteria. Next. Medical definition of a virus. This is laughable. You'll see what the problem is right away. Why do people believe this malarkey? We'll get into that. And then the common debate in all of science is, are viruses alive? And we'll project both of these and we'll say, well, which one do you think this is? Are viruses alive and we need to kill them, or are they just intracellular parasites that have to live off your cells and therefore they're zombies? There's a debate within science, and has been for 100 years, as to viruses. Are they alive or are they dead? Or I shouldn't say dead. I said, are they living or non-living is the debate. So the answer is exosomes. Then I'm going to show you real pictures of fake viruses. Then I'm going to show you the spiky blob seen around the world. Then I'm going to show you the first specimen. And then and then that's it. So tonight's fairly short. If you remember, the last little thing that we did was 2 hours and 40 minutes. We're not going to do that again. We're going to break this into 2 parts. So what we're going to learn in part 2, we're going to cover all the nonsense that has been coming out for years. You'll hear people talk about the measles. What about measles? Now we've got a hantavirus thing, outbreak. Now we've got alpha-gal. Now we've got Lyme disease. Now we've got all this made up crap. And we've got all these. They're saying the cause is not what the cause is, and everyone's confused on purpose. So you'll see this new hantavirus nonsense that's going on where they have the crisis actors come out on the boat and they're wearing hazmat suits, but the security guards aren't wearing the hazmat suits and the security guards are standing like 4 feet away. It's theater. I'm a theater guy. Remind you, I went to school for this stuff. When I see a play, I know it's a play, okay? So, doesn't it have to be a virus if it's this new hantavirus thing? No. And remember, this is part 2. We won't get to this for a month. So hopefully by then, the hantavirus thing will be a phantom virus. But I'm sick. How can you say it's not a virus? Mom went to church and caught it from Farmer Joe. How can you say that she didn't catch it? How can you say that, Brother Billy Bob didn't catch it from over the divider at work, from the cubicle next door? The guy was coughing. How can you say it's not a virus? Easily, I'll show you. What about the 1918 Spanish flu? What about the virus isolation thing? Because that's what we're talking about. No one has isolated. So if we don't have the thing, how can we say that the thing causes something else? Why do people actually get sick then, if it's not a virus? We'll talk about the invisible rainbow. We'll talk about the implications of increased EMFs. We'll talk about the Enders paper from 1954 that proved viral isolation. We'll talk about that. This is all part 2, remember. Definition of virus isolation, because just like a few weeks ago, when we talked about you don't have a genetic disease, what about the cure for hepatitis C? I get that all the time. I say, medicine has never cured a disease. Well, what about hepatitis C? The commercials say they cured it. Yeah, well, look into it. They changed the definition of the word cure. Oh, no. You remember this? This was last month. We talked about it. So just remember, they changed the definition of woman, right? Just remember, in 2020, during the COVID hoax scamdemic crap, they changed the definition of vaccine. Same thing here. They changed the definition of isolation, just like they changed the definition of cure. Cure does not mean you are without the disease. Cure means that your blood levels, your blood panels show an antibody number between this number and this number for a certain number of weeks. That is your hepatitis C cure. Doesn't mean you don't have symptoms. See? They just changed the definition. Everybody goes along with it, and everybody hears, oh, they cured hepatitis C. No, they didn't cure hepatitis C. Problems with virus isolation? Where are all the viral particles? Cover your mouth, you're going to sneeze, you're going to spread the virus, blah, blah, blah. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. There are no viral particles, right? So who cares? That's a very important question. Who cares? Does anyone care? Yeah? Okay. And then why does this even matter? And then conclusion. So you're going to get all that in part 2. So, all right, I'm done. I'll see you in a month. Monthly housekeeping. This might be a mind bender. Put your your thinking caps on. And just to give you some retrospective here, for my entire life, okay, I believed the traditional narrative, you sneeze, you cough, you pass a virus, you go outside, you catch a cold. I believed it all. Graduate level vaccine courses and micro courses, as well as graduate school for my doctorate, taught me the same material regarding the germ theory of disease. You don't just magically go to chiropractic school and they teach you all the weird, quacky stuff. You have to seek out the weird, quacky stuff, because even chiropractic schools are full of crap. So after thousands of hours of study, along with dozens of books and articles and research journals and videos and podcasts and deep personal reflection upon way more sensible and logical information, I had to reshape my understanding of this entire topic, as all intellectually honest people have to do in various areas during your life. We are all taught nonsense, such as, I think I have a spreadsheet of it right here. Other areas? Well, if you go to public school, if you go to public school, you're talking Big Bang evolution, millions, billions of years, you came from monkeys, fish became a philosopher, microbe became a man, lightning hit a mud puddle, boom, you're here. That's what school teaches you. But it's not just grade school, 4th grade when they taught me that. It was high school, it was college, it was graduate school, right? But you have to, at some point, you have to go, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. How did the males find the females, and how did they know to reproduce, and was this one going to lay eggs, or was this one going to have live young, or were they going to breastfeed, or how did they decide? We got a problem. But then you do the same thing with medicine. Well, okay, if medicine had all the answers, then why haven't we cured any diseases? And if medicine had all the answers, well, then why is everybody sick? And if medicine had all the answers, why are we creating new disease names every day? If medicine had all the answers, why is alpha-gal and Lyme disease even a thing? We've got all the money in the world. Why can't we figure it out? Why are all the kids retarded, right? So you come to these, government history, things we were taught about history may or may not be true. Some of the stuff I was taught in my history books, You know it's garbage, right? Same thing with germ theory, the topic here. Same thing with money. If you come to our Bitcoin classes or you start understanding like, wow, this paper money in my pocket is not real. Like somebody printed this and now we're in the place where we're printing more of it to blow up people on the other side, in other countries. And this money's not real. So then you come to some of our classes where we talk about the Federal Reserve and we talk about the IRS and we talk about all this nonsense. Your ideas change as you gain more information. If your ideas don't change as you gain more information, then you might have a problem and you might need to look at, then somehow you know everything, right? Same thing goes with vaccines. I have never met, now I'm saying this about the evolution thing, the vaccine thing, the virus thing, all of it. I have never met somebody who is anti-vaccine who didn't start out first being pro-vaccine. All of us. I got vaccinated. She held me down and vaccinated me multiple times. But I've never met anybody who figured it out. I've never met an anti-vaccine person that said, you know what, I was totally wrong about this. I have to go back and vaccinate all my kids. I have to get them caught up on all their shots. I've never seen that. I've only seen people who were vaccinated as kids, who grow up, who vaccinate their kids, who then finally, they wake up and they go, wait a minute, what am I doing? Right? They never go the other way. They never go the other direction. Same thing with vaccine, same thing with germ theory. Because we were all taught germ theory, but then we come to our senses and we go, this doesn't make sense. Same thing with space, same thing with the media, whether the media is telling you the truth or not, same thing with the Bible. Nobody comes out of the womb quoting Isaiah. Nobody comes out of the womb like we are born, we are sinful, we are fallen. Like you have to learn it. You have to figure it out. And then you have to wrap your mind around it. Instead of wrapping it around your mind, you have to wrap your mind around this thing and you go, am I going to accept this or am I going to turn away? Right? Same thing. Aliens. Your government's getting ready to tell you, right? Unbelievable. Same thing with viruses. Same thing with chiropractic. Same thing with natural health. Nobody's born a chiropractor. You have to finally figure this stuff out, and you have to go, God, this whole medical system is just absolutely destroying people. It's a death and depopulation machine. Like that's nobody is born a chiropractor. Like you have to figure it out. Natural health, same thing. So my desire, I wanted to point you in the right direction. Like you have to soul search. You have to figure this stuff out. You have to do, it's not easy, right? You have to take the time and you have to it takes your time and it takes your dime to figure this stuff out. So why am I spelling this all out? Because my desire is to simply save you the years it took me to come to these conclusions. But what you decide, entirely up to you. I don't care either way. Like I've come from here and I've gone to there. Nobody's going to come and go, oh, well, here's a research article, and here's where isolated virus is, and here's where the science proves it, and here's where the government says it. Like, where's your sources? I don't care. I don't care. I started where you were. Now I'm here. You can think whatever you want. It's up to you. God bless you. Either way. I'm going this direction. I'm moving forward. You want to come with me? Awesome. Hop on board. So, despite 150 years of medical mafia monopoly, America is the sickest nation in the world. Why? Because what we're talking about tonight, vaccination, is relentlessly touted as the primary medical miracle of eradicating smallpox and polio. That is the first thing you're ever going to hear. Moms out there who don't vaccinate your kids, what's the first thing you hear? What about smallpox? What about polio? You want to bring those back? You want everybody to die? Why do you want that's what you hear. So in putting this together, just so you know, one of the following, probably in quarter 3, will be a class called, and this is the name, I'm calling it right now. One of them will be entitled, What About Smallpox and Polio? And they're going to do a whole class on it. This is all you hear, smallpox and polio. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. Even if this were completely true, that they eradicated smallpox and polio 60 years ago or whatever it was, what has medicine actually accomplished since these supposed miracles? What have they accomplished? You want to know some miracles? Ozempic, right? That's a miracle for the drug companies because everybody's falling for it. Next. Americans have been effectively propagandized to revere and believe medical doctors at all costs while being poisoned for profit. However, we detoxify your body from poisons while giving you nutrients to rebuild your organs. Which one sounds better? Unbelievable. That one or this one? Medicine's going to poison your blood with drugs and vaccines. By law and by license, that is their assigned objective. There's nothing else they can do. If you go to the doctor and you don't want them giving you drugs, you're going to the wrong doctor, period. End of story. Drop the mic, walk off stage, exit stage left, you are done. That's it. If you think you're going to the doctor and he's going to give you an herb, you are smoking rock. Next. You should take note that nearly all vaccinations are for supposed viral, not bacterial, sicknesses. Why? Smallpox, polio, flu, the COVIDs, the AIDS, the HIV, the Hep ABC, the rabies, the MNR, the DPT, all of them, most of them, not, I would say 95%, most of them. Tetanus, that's one I left out. God, there are millions of them. Nearly all vaccinations are for viruses. Note that. Why? We'll get there. If there are no viruses, however, here's a big one. If there are no viruses, then what purpose do vaccines actually serve? That's the question. Write that one down. Next. Old ideas die hard, particularly those which promise endless profits from drugs and vaccines, such as the one bug, one drug germ theory, which is what we're talking about. So if we've got this bug and it causes tetanus and we give you this drug which stops the tetanus, we got you forever, right? If we got this bug that causes flesh-eating, problem on your arm and we give you this vaccine that stops the flesh-eating bacteria or whatever, or the virus or whatever it is, then we got you, right? If we can plug a bug to a drug, that's the whole business model. That's it. The COVID's 2.0 hantavirus scam is currently upon us. Just FYI. I'm sure it's fake. I'm sure it's garbage. You're going to see why tonight. We're not even going to really talk about it. I just wanted to point it out because when I got the download to figure out this class and do this after years and years and years of thinking I should, I was like, wow, this is perfect. They timed the hantavirus perfectly for my class. And the other thing too, all the Lyme disease scam and the alpha-gal scam and the this and the that. Here it is. Are they weaponizing insects? Is the government weaponizing? Yeah, probably. However, can you build yourself up and be impervious and be bulletproof and be locked down airtight to the stuff? Yeah. Yeah, no weapon formed against you can prosper, right? If we rebuild you, but if you're out there sucking down Diet Cokes and you're getting shot up with every Pfizer product you can, and you're taking antihistamines and you're taking a bunch of blood pressure meds and you go hiking and you get a tick on you and a bite, who knows? Who knows, right? But it's all a scam because if we can rebuild your body and make you impervious to this nonsense, you won't even be a target. The tick will hop on you and just be like, oh, this guy's too healthy. Screw this. Right? So the climate change hoax completely disappeared. Remember this. That whole global warming climate change hoax absolutely eradicated. As soon as we started building AI data centers, surveillance centers, in every state so that we had enough space so that we could train the robots and the drones and the robot dogs to take you out. And that's why they're twice the size of Manhattan. We got one in Utah that's twice the size of Manhattan. 63 square miles or something like that. Why? They have to have space to train the robot dogs so that they can eat you. That's it. And they're going to train the robots in accelerated time, so so that they can write the algorithm so the robots can figure out how to walk and how to train, how to hunt you down and accelerate. They'll speed up time in their little laboratories, and so the robots will learn so much faster. That's why they're so big. You won't hear that anywhere, but think about why these things are so massive. Why would they need to be so massive if they're just going to store pictures of your face, right? Crazy. Next. Your government, which is full of satanic pedivores, which everybody forgot about, will soon release more files disclosing contact with your galactic space brothers, who will most certainly assert that they will provide peace from nuclear aggression, which is fake, another thing that's fake. Jesus is one of many ascended masters. They created all religions to manage humanity, and the Bible simply cannot be trusted. That's your galactic overlords. Thank you very much. Your government's been working with them for years. They're going to come out and let you know. Thank you for releasing the files. Yay. Yes. It's all fake. Well, I can't say it's all fake. There are real demons. But the files that they're going to, it's just, it's unbelievable. We've got all the money in the world to blow people up, right? And we've got all the money in the world to fake all this nonsense NASA crap. And we've got all the money in the world to do Project Bluebeam, but we can't, but there's, homeless veterans on the streets, and San Francisco's fallen in the ocean. Washington and Oregon are falling in the ocean because the banks took people's houses. Everybody's homeless. It's crazy. It's crazy, but we got money to do this. We can build the ballroom or the bail room next. So the central question that cannot be answered by mainstream virology, it's this right here. If viruses are responsible for contagious diseases and are present in large enough quantities inside infected people, Why can't they simply be isolated, purified, photographed, sequenced, and demonstrated distinctly from human fluids alone without the use of complex cell culture systems and complicated isolation techniques using starvation and poisoning? I know that's a mouthful. What I'm saying is, why can't we just take the snot from an infected person? Why can't we take the snot? Because if you were to swab out somebody's snot, you're going to have mucus, you're going to have skin cells, you're going to have viral particles, you're going to have bacteria, you're going to have all kinds of, you're going to have a snot soup. So if we take out a sample, or if somebody spits in a cup, or somebody, if we take a fecal swab, or if we pee in a cup or something like that, or if we're testing something for some kind of microbe or microbiology, you would have to take something from infected people. You would have to isolate the thing you're trying to study, right? If I wanted to figure out in this room, if I said, how many people in this room have prostate problems? I'm going to want to separate the room into males and females, correct? Correct. Simple. Without any of the 2024 changes in anatomical structure, right? I would have to separate, or if I said, hey, I've got a bag of coins here, how many quarters do I have? I would have to isolate, you get me? Yeah. The number of quarters from the number of dimes and the number of nickels. It's simple. So that's what isolation is. Simple. I don't want to make this too complex. Take the snot, isolate it, get it by itself, purify it, meaning make sure that I only have the viral sample. Get rid of the skin cells, get rid of the mucus, so I only have the viral sample. Then, can we take pictures of it? I mean, we should be able to, right? Can we sequence it genetically, figure out the genome? Well, that's what they told you they were doing the last 6 years, right? And then can we demonstrate distinctly from these human fluids alone without the use of complex cell culture systems? What that means, because we're going to talk about these terms, if we have something like a bacteria and it has to live on something, if you take away the something, the bacteria dies. Well, we have to have it on a culture medium or a cell culture medium. What do we use in medicine for cell culture mediums? Oh, crazy stuff. Monkey kidney cells. We use ground up babies. We use sugar in a petri dish, like if you ever took a microbiology class or if you did stuff in high school or whatever, and you put sugar in the little petri dish, and then you take bacteria from the pond and you inoculate the bacteria into the petri dish, you put it in a little warm plate, and then you come back in a day, and then you've got some bacteria on the agar, right? Then what you would do is take the bacteria from the agar, put it on a slide, take the slide, a little piece of glass about this big. I worked in a microbiology lab for a while, so this is what I did all day. So you take the slide, you take the little swath of bacteria, you put it on the slide. Maybe you put a little bit of water there, depending on what you're trying to do with it in the microscope. Or sometimes you pass it through a Bunsen burner and you fry the bacteria. Then you stain it, then you put some alcohol on it, then you put a cover on it, you put it under the microscope, and you look through the microscope. Did any of the stuff that I just mentioned, could that have changed the bacteria that I'm trying to look at? Do we take that into account when we put it in textbooks or when we talk about it on the news? The same thing happens when we take viruses and we take out the snot. We're trying to say we need to isolate, purify, photograph, and genetically sequence and demonstrate it distinctly from human fluids, but that's not what they're doing. They take the snot out of somebody, they grind it up, they filter it, they put it on a cell culture medium, like maybe a thing made out of monkey kidney cells or aborted human fetal cells or whatever, and then we put in antibiotics, different types of poison, and then here now we say, what do we say? We say, here's the virus. Is this human cells? Is this originally from the original human? Is this from the aborted fetal stem cells? Is this bacteria that was from somewhere else on a contaminated instrument? Is this from the results of the bacteria or the results of the antibiotic? Is this a result of feeding antibiotic and toxic drugs into the soup? How can you say that now we have a virus isolated? You have nothing. You have a chemical soup, and now you're saying, and you're telling the world, and you're putting it on the news that the thing has been isolated. It hasn't been isolated. Just like if I were to take the slide, take the bacteria, here's the slide. I put it on the slide. I run the slide through heat in a Bunsen burner. I put some stain on it. You know what we used for stain in the microbiology lab? It was a thing called methylene blue. The thing that people are buying from TikTokers to drink.
Yikes.
That's what we used methylene blue for, right? You're not going to rebuild your body by using methylene blue. I don't care how much of it you drink. You're not going to rebuild. Your organs are not made of methylene blue. That's just a fact. So then what happens if we take the bacteria on the slide, we run it through heat, then we stain it, then we put alcohol on it, then we put a slide on it, and we look at it through a microscope. Did we change the bacteria? Invariably. How do I know that I'm looking at the bacteria? How do I know I'm not looking at the methylene blue or the alcohol or the heat or a crack in the slide? You follow me? That's an exaggeration, but this is the central question. The very, very premise of microbiology or germ theory is that we can take a sample, we can isolate out the offending organism, then we can purify it, we can take pictures of it, we can sequence it, and we can demonstrate it distinctly from the human fluids without using cell culture systems and complicated isolation techniques. Here's the antibiotics, starvation and poisoning, right? We take away the food, we give it poison, we give it an antibiotic to kill the bacteria, and then here's the bacteria, and the bacteria is dying, and we say, oh, there's the virus. So this is the central question that can't be answered. If viruses are contagious, are responsible for all these diseases, and are present in large quantities inside affected people, why can't we do this? You get me? Does that make sense? Everything else rests on this, okay? So this is the central question. Why can't we do this with viruses and bacteria? Why can't we demonstrate that all of this, why can't we demonstrate that this virus that we pulled from an infected person, when we put it into an uninfected person, it should cause the same sickness? And we'll walk through these steps again. This isn't the last time you're going to see this, but this is the main question. Next. Now here we are. The isolation methods used in virology often rely on cell cultures, chemical agents, genetic amplification, so that's another thing you're mixing in, computer modeling. When they do the models in computer, they're called in silico. It means in silicone. It means in a computer chip. That's what they did with the COVIDs. All the sequencing they did with the COVIDs, it was in silico. It wasn't in vivo, in real life. It was in a computer program. I'll show it to you later. So all of the isolation methods rely on all these things and indirect interpretation rather than extracting a complete viral particle directly from patient samples in vivo or in real life, and demonstrating causation of disease in a simple, observable manner. In other words, what I'm saying is, what you think causes disease, the way that it has been portrayed, and the way that disease is really caused, particularly by what we're talking about with microbiology, viruses, and bacteria, are two totally different things. We've all been taught that it was done this way. None of it has been done that way. I was going to show you, I have my microbiology book from undergrad. Went through almost that whole thing in one class, right? The word isolation in there appears on like 4 pages. Isn't that crazy? How are you going to teach a microbiology class without showing that we've isolated this bacteria or this virus to be able to study it separately? Once again, if I have a thing of coins and I want to know how many quarters I have, I want to study the quarters separately, I would have to separate everything. I would have to find all the quarters in the bag. That's not what we do. That's what you think, but that's not what we do. Next. So, to demonstrate how stupid this is, here's medical theories of disease. Doctors once thought diseases were caused by evil spirits, and I've studied the Bible for 30 years. What did we do? Last time, genetics class that we did, we came up with a collective hive mind, 20 people, 30 people in the room, whatever it was. How many diseases in the Bible did we come up with? 10 or 12? 10 or 12. In a book that covers, 4,000 years of human history, and we could only find between 20 or 30 people who've studied the Bible for hundreds of years cumulatively in this room, right? We were able to find 10 or 12 diseases. Deaf, mute, blind, withered hand, blood, epilepsy, leprosy, boils, I'm missing epilepsy, I said.
Lameness.
Lame, I think I said that, didn't I? So lame, let's say death. If you want to count death as one, I mean, there's 10. Right, what? Hemorrhaging, we said blood. So yeah, so doctors once thought it was caused by evil spirits. I got a better idea. How about it's just caused by poisoning and malnutrition? I'll show you this in a minute. Then they looked for a panacea to turn lead into gold through alchemy. That was Rumpelstiltskin and the whole 9 yards. We're still doing it today, but we call it pharmakia. We're taking oil and we're turning it into chemotherapy drugs, promising someone health, giving them death, taking all their money. That's alchemy, but it's just in a new way, right? Then came the humoral theory of imbalance of the four body fluids, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, black bile. That's where all the leech therapy came from. Some people still do leech therapy. I'm thinking about getting back into leech therapy. I'm thinking maybe we could offer that as a new service. Then they promoted the theory of spontaneous generation. In other words, living organisms springing from dead matter or non-living organisms, right? And that was maggots appearing from rotted flesh. Then along came, next, the germ theory of disease resulting in vaccines and drugs. You are currently still right here. Well, you're like right in here. But then came blood tests resulting in functional medicine. Now it's genetic tests and injectable peptides created by artificial intelligence, all while ignoring, listen to this, all while ignoring chemical poisons and selling more chemical poisons to treat the reactions of nutritional starvation. I'll read that again. Now you've got the genetic tests and injectable peptides created by AI, all of it while ignoring chemical poisons that are actually causing the diseases, right? And then selling more chemical poisons to treat the reactions of nutritional starvation. People are nutritionally deficient and they're toxically poisoned. That is every disease. That's the simplicity of it. Your doctors will never tell you this. Your medical doctors will never tell you this. Cemeteries, nursing homes, and hospitals are full of medical theories. All of these things proven to be utterly false. And I would say too, prisons. I should put prisons in there too. But cemeteries, nursing homes, hospitals, all full of medical theories that were proven to be utterly false. Just like the medical theories, let me think, statin drugs, right? How about blood pressure drugs? How about all of your psych meds? How about all of the stuff? How about anybody on a drug? That's a medical theory destined to be proven wrong. Destined. Unless they push through all the artificial intelligence, injectable peptides, cancer vaccines they're going to make. Just take a drip of your blood, we put it in the AI spits out a perfect vaccine for your cancer, right? That's where we're going. But it's going to kill you. It's not going to be a vaccine. Next. I love this. The developer, this is not the founder of chiropractic. This is his son. I couldn't think of a better way to say it. B.J. Palmer said if the germ theory of disease were correct, there'd be no one living to believe it. What he's saying is you're outnumbered, you're outgunned, you're outmanned. If there really are things that cause disease, bacteria, virus, fungus, parasite, all this stuff, if there really are these things, nobody'd be here to even think about it because you're outnumbered. You'd go outside, you'd take a breath. Like how did lightning hit a mud puddle 4.6 billion years ago and create your immune system is what he's saying. Next. So keep that in mind. That's another little thing that you might want to note. So why don't we endlessly quote research articles in asserting our claims? You've run into these people on FBI Book and Instascam where you say something and they say, what's your source? In other words, show me a news article or show me a journal article. You've run into these people. They won't believe anything unless it comes from the New England Journal of Medicine, the Lancet, or the JAMA. They won't believe it. But how about these people who, they won't believe it unless it's in the newspaper, but the newspaper is just quoting a headline, and they don't ever read the study, they just read the headline. That's most of the world. So I often get this, and here's why we don't endlessly quote research articles in asserting our claims. Here's a few reasons. I don't think there is a research article out there that proves that you should eat food that God made and not food that some dude made in a laboratory. So am I going to wait around for a research article to tell me to eat plants and animals? No, because it's never going to happen because there's no money in it, right? Because the research articles have to be funded by who? They have to have people doing the research. The researchers have to get paid, right? They're coming from universities where they're on grants. Who's paying for the grants? Like, this all takes money. So who's going to take the time and the energy to tell you that taking a bunch of medications is going to kill you? That's another thing. It's never going to be in the research articles because who's paying for the drugs to come to market? The pharmaceutical companies. Who's doing the clinical trials on the drugs? The pharmaceutical companies. Who's paying for the articles? The pharmaceutical companies. So it's a racket. So when somebody says, "What's your source? Where's a primary sourced medical reference journal?" I say, "Sit and spin, bro. Go somewhere else. Like, I'm not talking to you. I don't even need. You're in the wrong place. How do I?" You're talking to the wrong dude. I ain't your boy. Most research is paid advertising at best, or it's altogether fake at worst. You know it, you've seen it, one year it'll be, fish oil will kill you. It gives you cancer. The next year, it's fish oil's good. Eggs, red meat, salt, all of it. 1 year, everything will say, "Oh, nope, it's gonna kill you, don't eat salt." 4 years later down the road, you'll die without salt. Here's a study that'll tell you, I don't need studies to tell me obvious things. If you do, that's on you. That's not on me. These two professionals that we're talking about would be considered experts in their fields. They have probably seen, read, and assessed more medical journal articles and studies than anyone else in the Western world. They are two editors of very prestigious medical journals. Watch this. This is a disaster, and I love it. Marshall Langell, editor of the New England Journal of Medicine for 20 years. These were her words 17 years ago. It is simply no longer possible to believe much of the clinical research that is published, or to rely on the judgment of trusted physicians or authoritative medical guidelines. I take no pleasure in this conclusion, which I reached slowly and reluctantly over my 2 decades as an editor of the New England Journal of Medicine. So this is a woman who edited the biggest journal in the United States, the most prestigious journal in the USA. Damning information. But wait, there's more. Next. Richard Horton, editor of The Lancet, which is in England, same deal, bigger in England. Been around longer. Wrote this in 2015, so this is 11 years ago. The case against science is straightforward. Much of the scientific literature, perhaps half, may simply be untrue. Afflicted by studies with small sample sizes, tiny effects, invalid exploratory analyses, and flagrant conflicts of interest, together with an obsession for pursuing fashionable trends of dubious importance, science has taken a turn towards darkness. Next. He continues. This is a separate quote. The apparent endemicity, meaning everywhere, it's ubiquitous, it's all over the place, it's an endemic, of bad research behavior is absolutely alarming. In their quest for telling a compelling story, scientists too often sculpt data to fit their preferred theory of the world. Yes, they do, as a matter of fact. Or they retrofit hypotheses to fit their data. Journal editors deserve their fair share of criticism too. We aid and abet the worst behaviors. Our acquiescence or giving in to the impact factor fuels an unhealthy competition to win a place in a select few journals. Our love of significance pollutes the literature with many a statistical fairy tale. Journals are not the only miscreants or offenders. Universities are in a perpetual struggle for money and talent. So what's he saying here? Oh, yeah, back. Or not, well, what's he say? Yeah. Well, go back to the last one, actually. I wanted to point this out. I wanted to say, afflicted with studies with small sample sizes. You've seen these. Like a while back when we did the genetics class, and I was showing you the Casgovy, the sample size was like 20 people they did this drug thing on. 20 people. Then tiny effects. Let's see. We gave people this drug, and it decreased the cholesterol in their blood by 10 points. Hallelujah, we got a brand new drug on the market, right? Yeah. Invalid exploratory analyses, math that just doesn't math, right? And flagrant conflicts of interest. Let me think. The drug companies doing studies to promote their drugs. Unbelievable. Together with an obsession for pursuing fashionable trends of dubious importance. Here's a good one right now. Creatine, monohydrate, all over the place. Do I need a peer-reviewed journal article to tell me that putting a white synthetic powder from China into my drinks is a good thing or a bad thing? Do I need that? No, I don't. Creatine monohydrate. It's a chemical. It's a drug. It's made by a pharmaceutical company. Everybody's dosing it. I was dosing it when I lived in the gym 3 years, for years at a time when everybody's pumping creatine monohydrate back in the gym days, right? And now it's resurging. Everybody's like, oh, I don't know. I don't know if we need it. I don't know if we need it. Well, what's the research say? So they go to the research articles. What do they find? A bunch of people making creatine monohydrate, right? There's nothing that says it's bad, but it's a white powder chemical from China made in a laboratory. In other words, what tree did you pick the creatine monohydrate powder from, right? Like, I don't need an article to tell me whether I should eat it or not. It's just simple logic, right? Next. It didn't come off the creatine monohydrate tree, is what I'm saying. These are savage indictments. So these two, Marcia Angel and Richard Horton, these are savage indictments of the whole field of medical reporting, medical journals, medical claims, medical propaganda, and industry-influenced lies, right? Next. Oh, yes, we are up to a, what do we call this? Commercial break. I couldn't think of the word. Everybody, thank you. Thank you, Heidi.
All right, this patient, she said, I came in with a splitting headache, ears stopped up, and barely able to keep my eyes open. Dr. Brett gave me an adjustment, and I did some cold laser. My headache immediately left, my ears cleared up, and my eyes don't hurt anymore.
Easy peasy. Oh, and remember that last stuff before we get into the memes. Remember that last stuff. Every time every time you see a headline that says survey says, or, new study says, or doctors say, or experts this, or experts that, remember that. Remember that every time you read a headline about a study. Remember what I just taught you. The government says the earth is overpopulated. I say the government's overpopulated. You okay, babe? You don't look excited for another 55-hour work week where 40% of your pay is stolen by child-eating pedophiles. Wow, tough crowd. You don't like the pedivores? You don't like the satanic pedivores? All right, it's a good laugh because everybody forgot about it, so we got to keep it alive, right? We got a war, we got energy lockdown, we got the hantavirus, we got aliens. Like we gotta remember the victims of Jeffrey, right? So your doctor got into and got through med school not because they were smart, but because they had the ability to memorize and repeat a bunch of raw data. Memorizing that much info left very little time for actual critical thought. It created the perfect, credible drone army to regurgitate corporate pharmaceutical propaganda with zero critical thinking. And that is how you wind up with an entire landscape of doctors and nurses and people who have no idea that nobody they're working on is getting better. That's how. They got brainwashed. Here's the world. I don't think it can get any worse. Me? I just read Revelation. Oh, it's going to get worse. Oh, it's going to get worse. Thanks to COVID, I will never trust our medical system again, no matter who is in charge. Doesn't matter if Mickey Mouse or Anthony Fauci or Bugs Bunny is in charge. I actually might like it if Bugs Bunny was in charge. But thanks to the COVIDs, we don't trust any of you people. However, everyone you know is still going to the same doctors that tried to kill them 6 years ago. Everyone you know. So here's some more published evidence. The Starfield report. We talked about this probably a year ago. I'll bring it up again because you need to know it. One particular review was published in the JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association, on July 26, 2000. This was 25 years ago. This might ring a bell. This is 25 years ago. The author was Dr. Barbara Starfield. She was a widely revered public health expert at Johns Hopkins. The author, her workplace, the journal, all of it possessed meticulous mainstream credentials. So Dr. Starfield's shocking review, here it is. I own it. I have it. I can print copies of it if you want to read it. I think I showed it in whatever class we talked about this in. I actually brought it up on screen and showed this is what it says. The title of it is U.S. health really the best in the world? And this thing revealed that the U.S. medical system kills 225,000 people and severely maims many more. What's 225,000? Somebody on a phone. What's 225,000 divided by 365? Just do that math real quick. So she put out this study. She worked at Johns Hopkins. The study got published in JAMA. This was 25 years ago. What is 225,000 divided by 365?
616 people a day.
That's a jetliner going down every day. 600 people on a big jet. that goes down every day. That's every day of the year. When was the last time we had a jetliner that crashed? I remember growing up, planes were hitting the ground all day, all the time. When was the last time you heard of a jet hitting the ground? Why? They were doing so good about hitting the ground there for so long. I don't know. But when it goes on TV, how long is that on TV when a jetliner crashes? Weeks. They are killing, what was it, 615 people a day? This was 25 years ago. This was before the COVIDs. This was before COVIDs in the last 5 years taking out 10 times more people with the disability, the death, the disease, the vaccine, not the disease, not the thing, not the poison, but the vaccine, taking out 10 times more people, or it was 10 World War IIs that we talked about last class. This was 25 years ago. This was before Ozempic. This was before Adderall. This is before a lot of your psych meds. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Next. So the breakdown. FDA-approved drugs kill, just the drugs approved by the FDA, that's 106,000 people. And the mistreatment and errors in the hospitals kill 119,000 people. You think the mistreatment and errors went up in the hospitals since all the doctors and nurses were the first in line to get the COVID shots? So if you extrapolate those numbers, we just did it backwards per day. So that's a jetliner hitting the ground every day. But here it is happening. Nobody knows. It's not on TV. It's not cycled through the media 24/7. Here we are cleaning up the wreckage. Here's the stretchers. Here's the firemen. They don't do it anymore. You don't even know what's happening. So if you extrapolate those numbers forward, the U.S. medical system kills 2.25 million Americans per decade. Remember, 25 years ago. They've gotten a lot more efficient since then. So the same medical professionals who recently tried to kill you are never going to make you well. So why am I telling you all this? Because there are some great examples right there of why you shouldn't give a rat's ass about research, about headlines, about articles, about the journal articles, about somebody asking you, give me a source. I need a source. You don't need that. Next. This is Stephen Lanka. I got to just give a shout out to him because this guy had some courage because he stood up. I'm going to tell you about him, what he did. And so a lot of other people have gotten on board with this and started figuring this out. So let's just read you his story. And this is just a quick little summary from online. You can read however much you want about him. But Stefan Lanka is a German microbiologist and virologist. So microbiology just means bacteria, virus, fungus, parasite. Virologist just means viruses, okay? Argues that pathogenic or disease-causing, that's what that word means, viruses do not exist, and that viruses do not cause disease. Oh, yeah. Oh, I see some of you shaking your heads. Oh, this is going to get good. This is going to get good. Okay, so just put it in your calendar, June 15th. Yeah, because we're gonna eat your lunch. We're gonna show you. This is crazy. Asserting instead that observed cell death in laboratories is caused by starvation and poisoning from experimental conditions rather than viral infection. Remember I said every single person that walks through here suffers two conditions. What are they? They're being poisoned and they're being malnourished. Right. What does he say? Every disease caused by starvation and poisoning from experimental conditions rather than viral infection. Doesn't that make more sense? I think the experience that people are having that we are calling a viral contagion could be because of starvation or poisoning. Too much poison, not enough nutrition. Rather than a viral infection, don't you? I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. Next. So check this out. He contends that vaccines are not effective and are potentially harmful because remember, if you don't have a virus, then why do you have a vaccine? Remember. Describing them as toxic mixtures of cellular waste, foreign proteins. This guy's right on the money. Because what have I said for years? When people are getting all these proteins pumped in their guts and pumped in their blood, and then your body is having a response to all these foreign proteins from monkey and pig and guinea pig and horse and cow blood and dead human baby, and you've got bacteria, virus, fungus, you got all these foreign proteins in a shot. And now you get shot with it, and your body has this reaction. I wonder why. Because you've got foreign proteins from another living animal in you, which will be diagnosed as autoimmune disease. So it's a toxic mixture of cellular waste, foreign proteins, and antibiotics. What does every vaccine have in it? Antibiotics. Every one of them, right? Rather than attenuated viruses. Lenka bases these claims on the argument that virologists have never isolated or biochemically characterized a complete virus. Interesting. Relying instead on misinterpreted images of dying cell components. Remember that last sentence there? I'm gonna point it out to you again. Misinterpreted images of dying cell components, because the cells are being poisoned, right, with antibiotics, streptomycin, penicillin, and they're being starved by taking away the cell medium that they grow on. And so the cells lyse and die and spill and puke and pee and diarrhea. And then you go, oh, that's the virus. The virus did that. The virus killed those cells. See? That's virology. That's virology. That's in my books. Like in the books, they don't talk about isolating the virus. It's just, here's the virus, here's what it does, here's how it kills you. Next. His position gained legal traction in 2017 when the German Federal Supreme Court ruled that there was insufficient evidence to prove the existence of the measles virus in 6 key scientific publications. So what does that mean? All your friends and neighbors who are worried about the kids getting measles, it doesn't exist. And the German Federal Supreme Court found that there was insufficient evidence to even prove the damn measles. Remember the measles? Remember the Brady Bunch episode with the measles? We went from measles being a typical rite of passage in a child's life to being a deadly disease in 1 generation. How'd that happen, right? So mainstream scientific and fact-checking organizations, I can't wait to see what they say, such as Pointer and the scientists, classify Lenka's views as misinformation and false, noting that the scientific consensus firmly establishes the existence of viruses and the efficacy of disease or vaccines. Yeah, really? Show me. Like, show me, fact checkers. Show me. This dude's putting his career on the line. He's a microbiologist and a virologist. He's going up against a German Federal Supreme Court, and he wins. Because nobody can produce evidence that the measles virus exists. Measles! So if they're doing this with measles, what are they doing with AIDS? What are they doing with the COVIDs? Huh? What are they doing with the hantavirus? Okay, it gets better. Hang on to your britches. Next. Heinrich Hermann Robert Koch, 1843 to 1910. This guy's considered one of the founders of modern bacteriology. So when you're talking bacteriology versus microbiology versus virology, it's right in the name. Bacteriology is just bacteria. Okay? Koch's postulates are for bacteria only. Viruses are allegedly 1,000 times smaller. Okay? So remember back in genetics when we talked about, we used to think it was the organs, and then we thought, well, maybe it's the tissues, and then we got down to, well, maybe it's the blood, and then we got down to, well, maybe it's the DNA, and then we got down to, maybe it's a chromosome, and then maybe it's a gene on the chromosome. Remember that? Same thing here. Because viruses, you got a bacteria, you got a blood cell. Oh, blood cells are huge. And bacteria, well, those are, those can be pretty big. But then viruses, 1,000 times smaller than bacteria. We're going to have to be the only ones that can see these bacteria and viruses because we're the only ones that have the money for the microscopes. Kind of like the planetariums, kind of like NASA, almost just going in the opposite direction, right? So the viruses are allegedly 1,000 times smaller. So in the late 19th century, so we're talking the 1800s, right? The first evidence for the existence of these tiny particles came from experiments with filters that had pores small enough to retain bacteria and let other particles through. Who made the filters? That's just a question I have. How did we find a filter that was small enough? How did we make, that's a hell of a screen door if you ask me. How did we make that? That lets a virus through, but it keeps the bacteria on the other side. Isn't that interesting? So next, and that was back in the 1800s. Like we didn't have, what do we have, right? So Koch's postulates are just this. This is very simple. The microbe must be found in abundance in all the subjects suffering from the disease, but not found in healthy subjects. Okay, and we'll walk through this a few times so you get this. This is the absolute underpinning thing of all microbiology. So the microbe, it's found in abundance in everybody suffering from the disease, but not found in the healthy people. Does that make sense? That should make sense. Logical. Number 2, the microbe must be isolated from a diseased subject, and then you grow it in a pure culture. That makes sense. Logical, right? Number 3, the cultured microbe should cause disease when introduced into a healthy subject. Tracking? And then number 4, simple. The microbe must be re-isolated from the diseased host and proven to be identical to the original microbe that you took out of the original sick person.
Right.
Makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
Only that's not what we do. Never. We've never done it. Next. Here's a little picture. So, dead mouse, healthy mouse. The microorganism, I'll run through this again so you just got this in your head. The microorganism must be found in abundance in all organisms suffering from the disease, but should not be found in healthy organisms. So like right here, we have the little black bacillus here. That's the suspected pathogen, and then little red blood cells. So over here, we got the little red blood cells, but we don't have a pathogen because Mr. Mouse is alive. Copy? Then number 2, the microorganism must be isolated from a diseased organism and grown in pure culture. So the culture sample from a diseased or healthy animal. Diseased, healthy. So we've got the agar plate. Usually it's cow's blood. Usually it's it's cow's blood, right? Or it's sugar or something else to grow bacteria, right? So here we've got the sick one. We cultured it. We grew it. It's positive. We've got a sample. Here, there's nothing. The cultured microorganism should cause disease when introduced into a healthy organism. So if we take that bacteria and stuff it into a mouse, we ought to kill the mouse, right? And then you isolate that bacteria or the virus or whatever from the mouse, or in this case bacteria because it's cook. So the microorganism must be re-isolated from the inoculated diseased experimental host and identified as being identical to the original specific causative agent. So we got this guy here, we killed him with his own stuff, we isolate the stuff from the guy, and we go back here and we recheck and we go, yep, it's the same stuff. Makes total sense, right? It's logical, it's sensible, it follows a pattern, it's postulate. So there's theories, there's postulates, there's hypotheses. It's science. Like this is what people think when they say trust the science. This is what they think they're doing. However, I'm going to propose to you that this is not at all what we do. Not at all, right? That is Cook's postulates, and that is not what we do. And all 4 conditions are met, if all 4 of those, those 4 steps. If all 4 of those conditions are met, you have adequately demonstrated the only way to prove the causative agent of an infectious disease. I mean, it's brilliant. It just makes sense. Only that's not what we do. Interestingly, even Cook himself, using his own postulates, couldn't demonstrate proof of contagion because he abandoned that requirement of the first postulate when he discovered carriers of cholera and typhoid who had no symptoms. Nurse of 35 years, right? So he found people who had cholera or typhoid, microbes, but they didn't have symptoms. So go back, Jonathan, to the last thing. The microbe has to be found in abundance in all subjects suffering from the disease, but not found in healthy subjects. So if they've got the bacteria or they've got the virus or whatever, but they don't have the manifestation of the disease, that validates his first hypothesis, his first postulate. Next, let's go back to where we were. So he abandoned that requirement when he discovered carriers of cholera or typhoid who had no symptoms. So could you have all this stuff in you but have no symptoms? Absolutely.
Not a symptom?
Huh?
Is that not a symptom?
What?
Having spots or whatever, evidence of cholera?
Is that not a symptom?
I mean,
I don't know.
I'm not tracking it.
Cholera and typhoid were famous for killing people. But
Right.
these people are walking around and they had, bacteria or virus characteristic of cholera or typhoid, but they didn't have symptoms.
That's what I'm saying. That was not a symptom. That was not evidence of
That was not a symptom.
yours. I mean,
No. No, not having a symptom. Not until a few years ago did it become where not having a symptom was one of the symptoms. It was called being an asymptomatic carrier. That was one of the symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, that became new. That was brand new a few years ago. They made not having a symptom one of the symptoms.
I love it.
So today, people who study bacteria and virus believe that Cook's sensible and logical postulates have been recognized as largely obsolete since the 50s, right? But in 1937, before all this, Thomas Rivers modified Cook's postulates in order to determine the infectious nature of viruses. We're not even going to talk about him. We'll talk about him more in part 2 next, because we're talking about viruses. But we're going to cover Rivers in the next one, because that's only viruses. So welcome, Heidi, for a commercial break.
Right, this patient, she said, before divine design, I believed I was forever confined to a sick care system that I had no desire to be a part of. I was on medication that, if left untaken, would leave me feeling tired and sluggish, unable to enjoy the life God had blessed me with. Even on the medication, I still dealt with terrible brain fog. Now I am proud to say I am off the medication. I'm no longer poisoning myself and my family, and we are practically working towards limitless better health and vitality as we continue to be treated like family at Divine Design. Thanks, Dr. Brett and staff, for all your support.
Okay. Yeah. I'll just let that sink in for a minute, right? If you're going to feed your kids something, introduce it really slowly. Unless it's a vaccine, then you can give them 8 at once. That's the stupidity of how anyone who's trained in this nonsense could look at what they're doing and not see what they're doing. It tells me either they're part of it and they know it, or they're just completely stupid. Here's Iran telling you, the hantavirus is in Switzerland. Soon it's going to become a global health emergency, and they, the demons, will come after another vaccine. Will come with another vaccine. Don't listen to them. That's the people who are supposed to be your enemies over in Iran. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. Yeah, they're right. When you realize hantavirus is listed as a COVID jab side effect, it's on page 33, by the way.
No.
Yeah, it is. It's on page 33. You didn't know this? Yes. Of course. Yeah, there were like 75 pages of side effects that weren't supposed to be, they wanted the side effects buried for 75 years. Nobody knows this? We taught this for 2020, 2021, 2022. We told you all this. Yeah. Yeah, there were like 75 years. They wanted the results of the clinical studies of the vaccine buried for 75 years. By that point, everybody who took the damn thing will be dead, right? Hantavirus right there. It's on page 33.
Wow.
Page 33. Yeah.
33.
Page 33.
Isn't that interesting?
You know what that means.
33.
Next. Yep. So whenever you see the word outbreak in the news, it's a vaccination promo. I would say outbreak, endemic, measles, alpha-gal, Lyme disease, because now they have a Lyme disease vaccine, don't you know? They just came out with a Lyme disease vaccine. The government weaponizes a bunch of things, from Eric Traubology, from the Operation Paperclip, and they just take all his stuff, weaponize a bunch of ticks, drop them in a bunch of weird places and farmers' fields, and then everybody's got these weird symptoms, and then everybody runs to Pfizer for the vaccine. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, thank you, Bill Gates. Love you. I'll see you in a dark alley, my friend. Hantavirus protocol. I will not be isolating, locking down, staying home, stopping work, following arrows, keeping 6 feet distance, canceling birthdays or holidays, wearing gloves, covering my face, getting jabbed, or declaring my vaccine status to anyone. Any questions? So, once again, here it is. Our central claim, here it is that no disease attributed to bacteria or viruses has met all of Cook's or Rivers' postulates. That takes a lot for me to say, because I believe this for my whole life. What is it that makes you jump the fence? You'll see. So this is not because, we're not saying this because the postulates are incorrect or obsolete. In fact, they're logical, right? They're totally logical. It's just the fact that this is not the way it operates. So ironically, this is due to the fact that bacteria and viruses don't actually cause disease in the ways we've been told. Because what if the viruses aren't really viruses, the way that you've been told? Now, bacteria, I will say this. I meant to say this back at the B.J. Palmer thing. Bacteria, virus, fungus, parasite. Bacteria, we don't have any proof. Bacteria exist, you can see them. Colonies exist, you can see them with the naked eye. But we don't have any proof that the bacteria is what causes the disease. Viruses, I'm going to show you what viruses actually are here in a little while, but they don't cause disease, and they're not organisms, and they're not things that you need to wash your hands from and be afraid of. You're not going to catch a cold or a flu from Uncle Karen. See what I did there, yes. Uncle Karen? Bacteria, so that covers bacteria, virus, fungus. Now, fungal things are real. You can see the spores, you can see the mushrooms, you can see, you can see the stuff growing, right? And then, of course, parasites, worms, you can see those. You can see flukes, you can see roundworms, you can see tapeworms. Yes, so some of those do exist. However, bacteria, virus, fungus, and parasite, or not virus, but that bacteria, fungus, and parasite, what are they actually trying to do? They're trying to return compromised flesh to the dust from which it came. That's their job. So they're trying to return non-viable tissue to the soil, whether it's an animal, a plant, whether it's a human, whatever. So they're trying to, now how do they do that? They only do that, they only take over on a sick animal or plant or human. That's what you would call terrain theory. The terrain for the bacteria or the fungus or the parasite to prosper is present. And so when the terrain, when the condition, whether it's the pH, whether it's the amount of sugar, whether it's what you have on your skin, what you have inside you, which is also skin, if the terrain of your body is positive for that thing to grow and you're not healthy, it's going to grow. That's terrain theory. Okay? Germ theory is wee little beasties floating around that you can't see that you need to be afraid of, and we'll sell you a vaccine. That's what that is. So that's our central claim. Go back to that. Did I leave something from that? No, that's our central claim, is that by bacteria and virus, nothing has ever met all of the postulates. And it's not because they're not logical. They're completely logical. Okay, next. So how did this come about? Similar philosophies were espoused in Greece. Several philosophers and medics promoted similar theories during the Renaissance. That was the leech days, which, by the way, if you want to get on our leech therapy list, sign up at the front desk. But in modern times, this masquerade became the explanation for most disease, with a great fraud and prolific plagiarist, Louis Pasteur, the father of the germ theory. Remember, how many times have I taught you? Medicine says all disease comes from two things. What are those two things?
Lack of nutrition.
Germs and genes. Medicine says, think of a disease that medicine says comes from anything other than a bug or your genes. Do they ever address pesticide poisoning for Parkinson's and Alzheimer's victims? Do they ever address vaccine injury for autism kids? Do they ever talk about poisons? Do they ever mention anything about this? You're malnourished? Well, they might take a blood test and tell you you're anemic and give you an infusion of iron. Maybe, but that will kill you too. That's all garbage. But they will never talk about this. They're only going to say your high blood pressure is from your genetics. Your diabetes is from your mom. Your cancer is from your uncle, whatever. And they're going to say you have an infection. Here's a vaccine, or here's an antibiotic. See? So all of this germ theory stuff, you best start, believing in the book of Revelation because you're living in it, right? Because you're in the middle of it. Germ theory is part of it. Next. It was Louis Pasteur who convinced the skeptical medical community that contagious germs cause disease. His germ theory now serves as the official explanation for almost all illness, what we just talked about. However, in his private diaries, he stated unequivocally that in his entire career, he was not able once to transfer disease with a pure culture of bacteria. And he obviously wasn't able to purify much smaller viruses at that time because he didn't have access to the fancy filters that they developed to separate the viruses from the bacteria. So he admitted that the entire effort to prove contagion was a resounding failure, leading to his famous deathbed confession that the germ is nothing, the terrain is everything. That's why I explained all of that to you before this. So terrain refers to the condition of the subject and whether the subject has been affected by poison. In your hospitals, oh, and here he is getting ready to huff some kerosene. Ether. Or ether, yeah. He's probably getting ready. He's getting ready to do some, he's going to inject. He's going to huff some ether. That's what he's doing. Yeah, man. That's Louis Pasteur. That's the dude, the plagiarist, the fraud, the guy who founded the whole germ theory of medicine that all of your healthcare runs off of. That's that pedophile right there. It's all fake. So surprise, surprise, guess what? Next. So imagine this. Some people drink milk from a certain cow. They develop profuse, bloody, projectile diarrhea. Your job is to find the cause of the problem. The Listeria bacteria is blamed. But what if there was another explanation? Wouldn't this be a great, great episode of reality TV? You show up and there's projectile diarrhea all over the place. You got to figure out why. So maybe the milk came from cows that were being poisoned or starved, right? Maybe they were covered in poison to keep the flies at bay. I know, like, that's what we used to do, right? Maybe they were unnaturally fed grains. Wait a minute. How's that unnatural that cattle eat grains? They eat grass. When was a cattle ever supposed to eat grains? Only when humans thought it might be a good idea, right? And are the grains good grains or genetically modified garbage? Sprayed with all kinds of weed killer and stuff like that instead of their natural diet of pure grass, right? So when people are like, what do you feed your cattle? Oh, grain and corn. And when was a cattle ever supposed to eat corn? How would cattle eat corn? I remember, growing up feeding our cattle. I remember cracked corn. We'd go to the elevator, we'd get it, big bags, 100-pound bags of cracked corn, and then you're feeding it, you're putting it in a troughs. Like, the cow would never pull an ear of corn off of a stalk. Took me years to figure this out. Like, who thought of this? Why are we feeding corn to cattle? Who thought of this? So maybe they were fed cardboard and waste from distilleries, which was a very common practice in Pasteur's day and in many cities around the world. So you're feeding just cardboard and old alcohol, the dredges out of the alcohol vats from all the distilleries. You're feeding that to the cattle. The cattle are eating all this nonsense. They're pissing it into their milk, and then people are drinking the stuff, and we're going to blame the milk. Genius. So what did Pasteur do? Let's cook the milk. So today we know with certainty that any toxins fed to a nursing mammal show up in milk production. Remember Lies Doctors Tell Part 9, where one of the nursing moms the doctor said, yeah, it's okay. The morphine doesn't pass into your breast milk. Remember that? What if these Listeria bacteria are not the cause of anything, but simply nature's way of digesting and disposing of chemical toxins? This seems to actually be the role that bacteria play in real life. Crazy, right? So germ theory, terrain theory, I don't know. I grew up on this, but I'm starting to think I'm over here, right? Next. So if aerobic bacteria, so aerobic means they have to have oxygen, are put in an anaerobic or without oxygen environment, they often produce poisons. For example, Clostridia, or Clostridia bacteria under healthy conditions will ferment carbohydrates in the lower bowel to produce important compounds. But if they're under non-oxygen conditions, Clostridia will produce poisons that can cause botulism. So in other words, it's the poisons rather than the bacteria that make people sick. More succinctly, it's the environment, or we would say the terrain, that causes the bacteria to create the poisons. Like, how did they discover penicillin? It was a mold, it was a fungus, right? And that was a poison. It was a poison given off by a fungus, right? And how did they, Botox, how was Botox developed? Botox is the botulism, is the toxin, the botulism toxin. That's where the name comes from. Botulism toxin, Botox. That's where it comes from. That's why it poisons your nerves, so you can't move your face, and then you don't have wrinkles. Isn't that great? Next. So the summary. Louis Pasteur are best known for permanently destroying God's #1 food, nature's most perfect food, milk pasteurization. Propagated the germ theory of disease during the Industrial Revolution when chemical poisons abounded like never before in human history. Isn't that crazy? You had the Industrial Revolution, you had smelters, you had steel mills, you had all this stuff, you had adhesives, you had paints, you had stains, you had all this crazy stuff, cements and concretes and all this crap we'd never heard of before, and he's going to blame it on the milk. Perfect. Makes total sense. So since Louis Pasteur's day, no one has experimentally demonstrated the transmissibility of disease with pure cultures of bacteria or viruses. That's the summary. Once again, we'll say it. If the germ theory of disease were correct, there'd be no one living to believe it. That's not a chiropractic. That is a chiropractic guy, a quote, but this is just a logical, sensible thing. You're outmanned, you're outgunned, you can't beat them, right? They outnumber you. You're the biomass. Walk around in a forest and dig a hole in the ground and look at the worms and the bugs. You're outnumbered. You have no chance. You're dead. If this is a zombie apocalypse, you're done. Okay, so the medical definition of a virus, here it is. Virus is a submicroscopic, meaning you can't see it with the naked eye, infectious agent that consists of genetic material, either DNA or RNA, wrapped in a protective, notice this, protein coat called a capsid, and sometimes an outer lipid envelope. So you've got genetic material in the middle, and it's wrapped in protein. Remember that. That's important. I want you to get that. So this is the medical definition. If you Google this, if you look this up in a book, look this up online, this is what you're going to get. This is what everybody's going to read. Unlike bacteria or other cells, viruses are obligate intercellular parasites, meaning they're bound to be intracellular parasites. So get this. Unlike bacteria, they rely on other cells. They're bound. They're contract states that they have to live inside other cells. So they're not inter, but within, intracellular parasites. That is, you'll hear that, that's just pounded into your head. Meaning they lack independent metabolism, cannot replicate on their own, they must infect living host cells, such as those of humans, animals, plants, or bacteria, and hijack the host cellular machinery to produce new viral copies. We've heard it. We've seen the cartoons. It's always a cartoon, by the way. It's never a real picture. It's always a cartoon. These damn cartoonists are so busy with NASA and with microbiology textbooks. So because they can't reproduce, they can't carry out metabolic processes outside a host, viruses are generally not considered living organisms. You might see where we're going with this. Occupying a boundary between living and non-living. Remember when we talked about the tranny zombie apocalypse? The tranny zombie apocalypse is a virus. I'm just kidding. Don't write that down. So when a virus infects a cell, it often forces the host to rapidly produce thousands of copies of the virus, which typically results in the destruction of the host cell and can cause various diseases in humans and other organisms. That's the definition of a virus. If you Google that, if you look that up in a book, that is what you're going to get. They're in this boundary between living and non-living. When a virus infects a cell, I used to just beat my head against the wall trying to figure this out and going, Lord, how did you make, I know there's the bacteria and the virus and the fungus and the parasites, so you can see all that. But where did viruses come from? I would always wonder, I would always ask, I would always say, how did viruses, how are they not living, but they're still here? It was a big question, and it's a question in science. For a long time, people have gone to blows over this question. How are they living and non-living? So half the guys will say they're living, the other half will say non-living. They throw their pocket protectors at each other, and it's just horrible. It's horrible. So the medical definition of a virus makes no sense, right? Makes absolutely no logical sense. They're just zombies. They're just intracellular parasites, so they're just zombies. Explain something else like that in nature. It just doesn't happen. So why do people believe viruses make people sick? Well, because military-grade mind control in Hollywood loves to promote medical science fiction. Like, I just went back and looked at how many we have a world-ending, population-destroying, Bill Gates type of virus. And we have to find a vaccine, and it's the end of the world, and we're going to have to blow holes in meteors to find the vaccine. So I just Googled how many, what are the top, virus, vaccine, epidemic movies in history? Oh, there were tons of them. But here's the big ones. Here's like the ones that you've heard of, right? The non-foreign movies. These are like all American, big deals. 28 Days Later, that's a British thing. But like everything else, you've got like, what do we got? We got Dustin Hoffman, we got Brad Pitt, we got Mila Jovovich. This is a whole franchise. This isn't just one movie. That was like 5 or 6, Raccoon City and the zombies and everything. And then this came out in 28 Days Later, then 28 weeks later, 28 months later. That's a whole franchise too. Then you've got Will Smith, then you've got Matt Damon, then you've got more Brad Pitt. So Brad Pitt and the vaccine, virus, contagion movies seem to have a pattern going on. So why do people believe viruses make people sick? You got this ready to go? It's just a short little two-minute thing. I want you to see this. This is Contagion, Matt Damon. Notice how many things sound familiar. So I watched a bunch of movie trailers the other day just to kind of try to find one that fit the mood. And it was unbelievable. The mind control, brainwashing programming that they have put into media regarding vaccines being the salvation for some kind of unknown virus. And they go throughout the world, and whether it was a monkey in Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, or whether it was, some rage virus that, fell into some guy's eye and 28 days later. And it's just all these, the virus turns you into a zombie, or the virus kills you on sight. And it's just, the mind control is so deep, and the vaccinology is so injected into you, no pun intended. It's just injected into your mind. It's fear, fear, fear. It's, you can't see these things, but they're out there. Trust me, they're going to kill you. Think about it. They want you to not trust what you can see with your own eyes. And if that's never been truer than now with all the AI slop that's everywhere. Ready for a commercial break? So, Yeah, go ahead.
This patient, she said, I was experiencing wrist and hand pain and was told I had carpal tunnel. I came to Dr. Spradlin about it, and after having some supplements recommended and chiropractic adjustments, the pain was gone in a couple of months.
Nice.
Or you could do the medical route and do a $60,000 surgery and come out of the surgery and still have the pain. That's usually what happens. You're shutting your computer. So, one other thing I was going to mention too, as far as the bacteria, virus, fungus, parasite thing, microorganisms, pathogens, whatever they are. Microorganisms refers to all of them. Bacteria refers just to bacteria. Viruses refer to viruses. But you can say microbes or you can say microorganisms. That's kind of another catch-all for all four. Micro meaning you just can't see it. You need a microscope to see it. So that's what that means. So when people are in a microbiology laboratory, or when they say that they're isolating viruses, you have to take into consideration that just by isolating the virus, well, let's just say like the slides. If you take the bacteria, say you have a pure culture of a bacteria, and it's just bacteria. You take that, you put it on the slide, you heat the slide, boom, you've already changed it. Then if you're going to add a stain so that you can characterize it and you can see it better, what's in the stain that's reacting with the bacteria? Then you're thinking, okay, I put alcohol on there too. Well, alcohol, or whatever other chemicals you want to put on there, there's a bunch of stuff. If you're doing dry mounts, wet mounts, you can do all kinds of things. So you're putting a bunch of different chemicals on there, plus you heated it, so you killed the bacteria. So am I really looking at the structure that the bacteria really was, or am I looking at something that was changed? Something that was changed. Same thing with viruses. If we take the kid snot out of the kid, we grind it up, we put in some cow's blood, we put in some streptomycin antibiotic, we put in some penicillin, we spread it on a dead, monkey kidney cell culture, this is what they do. Or they put it on aborted fetal baby guts in a plate. And then now we take that virus and we hit it with streptomycin, we hit it with penicillin, we grind it all up, we put it in the thing. Is that what we're seeing? Is that changed, or is that pure virus? It's changed. Like, what do you know? What is it? How do you know what it is? Is it human? Is it the cow's blood? Is it the monkey kidney? Which human is it? Is it the subject human, or is it the dead fetal, the fetal cells from the dead baby? There is no way of knowing. And that's the whole premise of what we're saying. You got it?
I do.
Excellent. Let's do it. Check this out. 2 minutes.
It was a groundbreaking ceremony for a new factory.
Did she mention seeing anyone who was sick? Anyone on a plane, the airport?
No, she said she was jet lagged.
The average person touches their face 3 to 5 times every waking minute. In between, we're touching doorknobs, water fountains, and each other.
Matt. Mom? No, go up to your room, honey.
So we have a virus with no treatment protocol and no vaccine at this time.
You had a seizure this morning, Beth.
Does she have a history of seizures
No.
and allergies?
As of last night, there are 32 cases.
Unfortunately, she did die.
Right. So can I go talk to her?
Mr. Amoff, your wife is dead.
What are you talking about?
Okay.
What happened to her? What happened to her?
Is there any way someone could weaponize the bird flu? Is that what we're looking at?
Someone doesn't have to weaponize the bird flu. The birds are doing that.
Watch this. It's transmission, so we just need to know which direction.
On day one, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16. In 3 months, it's 1 billion. That's where we're headed.
They're calling out the National Guard. They're moving the president underground.
People will panic.
Get away!
It will tip over.
The truth is being kept from the world.
Cook your samples, destroy everything.
Hello. I need you to get me the names of everyone who serviced this room. It's an emergency.
You can't panic now.
I know.
I'm gonna get you home.
I got people too, Dr. Cheever. We all do.
Don't talk to anyone. Don't touch anyone. Stay away from other people.
Get back in your car. We're not sick.
It's figuring us out faster than we're figuring it out.
It's mutated.
Notice the shapes of the little critters, right? We'll get to that in a minute. So if you counted anything around like 20 or 30 different references to stupid vaccine and virus things, you're about in the ballpark. Commercial break? Yes. Ready for some? Yeah, you're done, but we got some memes. We just went in a backwards order there. Okay. What did you notice from that while we're getting ready for this?
Fear. Lots of fear.
No one is immune to fear, right? You can't see it. It's perfect, right? So the things they were saying, we have no treatment protocol, we have no vaccine, cases are rising. Weaponized bird flu? No, the birds are doing it for us. The birds are already weaponized. Be afraid of the birds, not just the things you can't see, but make sure you're afraid of those birds. You ever heard of H5N1? You ever heard of avian flu? Didn't we just murder hundreds or thousands of ostriches in Canada because some PCR test told them that they had the bird flu? Why is it that it only affects chickens and that the only animals that really are messing up the world are cows? Just so happens to be the only stuff humans eat. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Unbelievable. All right, so yeah, but that one movie is one of dozens propagating virus, vaccine, endemic, pandemic. Here's Emerald Robinson. I love this. There's an awkward silence in America right now because all the vaccinated people started to realize they took health advice from satanic pedophiles. Yeah. 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 Okay. We're going to talk about this at part 2, but here's a teaser about what is really happening. 1920, radio waves covered the world. There was some stuff that happened in around 1918, 1919, 1920. 1895, we got electricity. Remember, it was in 1918, we got radio. Then it was like in 1940, 50-something, 57-ish, we got radar. Then in 60-something-ish, we got satellite stuff, technology. Then in the 1979 thing, we had the 1G. 1G is wireless. We've talked about this in the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, all the wireless technology. The 1G rollout happened in 79, we had the swine flu. 2G rollout happened in 91, we had cholera. 3G happened in 98, we had avian flu. 4G was 2009, swine flu. 5G, 2019, COVIDs. We're going to talk about all this in depth next time. Hantavirus, guess what? 6G, 2026, crazy. I think something invisible is making us sick. It ain't a virus. Crazy, right? That's where we're going with part 2. Next. Odds of dying from Hanta, 1 in 30 to 35 million. Odds of dying from a lightning strike, 1 in 15 to 20 million. Odds of dying in a car accident, 1 in 8,000. Odds of dying from medical error, 1 in 1,000. Look at that. If someone's telling you to freak out about Hantavirus, they're lying to you. I've been a paramedic a long time. We just cut out the guy's name just to make it fit. I've been a paramedic a long time. This is what we warned people about from March of 2020. During the so-called pandemic, I'd work shift after shift without seeing a legit COVID's case. Now, I can't go a single shift without seeing someone under 50 fighting what doctors call aggressive or turbo cancer. Every one of them has the same thing in common, the shot. We were told it'd save lives. Instead, it's filling oncology wards with the young and supposedly healthy. The real pandemic is vaccine injury, a man-made crisis born of mandates, profit, blind faith in big pharma. They made billions. Now they'll make billions more treating the damage they caused. This is the cost of compliance. This is the new normal. We warn people about this. Yeah, we warn people about this stuff. We caught so much hell for so long telling people, don't let your friends, don't let your family, don't let anybody fall for it. But this is all of this that was born out of this was me really looking back and going, how could this be possible with a virus? How could this be possible? How could this be possible? Don't forget, keep a safe distance, 6 rats apart. Because they're saying the hantavirus is from rat turds. That's what they're telling you now. Remember before it was bats, now it's rats. It's just a joke. It's just a big joke. Okay, so our virus is alive. Here, we're bringing this in for a landing very soon. If they are alive, then the definition of a living organism doesn't hold up. So they don't generate energy or convert nutrients. They don't eat anything. How are they living, right? So they're not alive. They lack a cellular structure. Everything needs a boundary around it, right? But they don't have one. So they cannot reproduce without a host. So if they're alive, the definition of being a living organism kind of goes away. So it's this conundrum. Science can't explain it. Bacteriologists have fought this virologists have fought about this for decades. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is, if they're not alive, then why do we try to kill them with antivirals and vaccines? See? There's a big one. And they wouldn't say kill them. They would say suppress replication because they can't reproduce without the host, the cellular machinery of the host, which is because they're an obligate intracellular parasite, right? You have this pounded into your head. So if they're not alive, why are we trying to get rid of them with vaccines? That's a problem. And don't forget the typical medical treatment. If you got a cold, you got a flu, you got some kind of bleh, what do the doctors tell you to do? You can't do anything. It's a virus. Go home, rest. Remember? You've heard it. You've heard it. You've said it. I've heard it. Have we all heard? It's a virus. It's a cold. It's a flu. You went outside. You had cold hair. You caught a bug. Just go home. Don't do anything. You can't do anything because it's not alive. We can't kill it. But they have antivirals. Okay, so here's the conundrum. This is a problem, right? Here's your answer. Here's why. A chemical poison would fulfill the viral requirements and make much more sense, because if you have an inert chemical poison, it would maintain its toxicity between hosts. They cannot be suppressed by antivirals. Chemicals are not alive, right? And then that makes sense because doing nothing would simply allow the body to dispose of the toxins ingested from the food, the air, the water, etc. There's nothing to kill. So if you just have a chemical poison, which is really the word virus means, is Latin for virion, which is toxin. That's what the word actually means. It doesn't mean a wee little beastie that's a zombie intracellular parasite that we don't know anything about and that's too small to see. No, virion, virus, means toxin. That's what it means. So our virus is alive. They have a problem. But if we have a chemical poison, that would tick all the boxes, would it not? Next. Yet we still have people poisoning themselves with antibacterial soap. Is antibacterial soap for viruses or bacteria? And they're poisoning themselves with hand sanitizer. Is that for bacteria or viruses? For what they were told is a what? And remember, antibacterials and antibiotics don't work for supposed viral diseases. Why would that be? If we can demonstrate that you have an antibiotic that kills a bacteria, a chemical poison would make sense as to why an antibiotic would not work on another living organism, even if it was non-living, right? And over 6 years later, many are still wearing face diapers to asphyxiate themselves with expelled carbon dioxide into damp cotton muzzles. Many people. I went through an airport a little while ago, couldn't believe what I was seeing. So the answer, here it is. It's wonderful. It's exosomes. The minute particles called viruses are actually exosomes, not invaders, but toxin-digesting vesicles containing materials produced and or excreted by our cells to help us adjust to environmental assaults, including chemical poisoning and electromagnetic fields. Remember that viruses are said to have protein coats and to contain nucleic acids because your body is walling that off. A cell is going to put RNA or DNA into a protected protein coat before it pumps it out into your lymphatic fluid because you don't want stray RNA or DNA in your bloodstream. Why? Because you don't want the blueprints for another organ or another creature in your bloodstream, right? So your body's going to wall this thing off. It's going to build a protein coat, a protein shell, or sometimes a lipid shell around this foreign RNA or DNA, right? So then why do they make mRNA vaccines? To put more genetic material in your blood, to code for something else, right? So this fits. So the exosome, it crosses that off the list. Like the structure seems to be the same. And remember this too, this is a big point. Only Western medicine invokes the concept of contagion. Contagion being a viral or a bacterial, oh, it's a contagion, oh, you can catch it from somebody else. That's what contagion means. By person-to-person transmission of harmful bacteria or viruses. Get that. Get what that says. Only Western medicine invokes this concept. Nobody else believes it. Traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurveda, that comes from India, ancient, and nobody entertains the concept of contagion. These ancient healing systems look at energy imbalances, in other words, too little or too much, right? Diet and toxins. Diet, too little diet, too many toxins. Sound familiar? As the causes of disease. 6,000 years of human history has recorded no proof of contagion in any historical records. Isn't that interesting? Next. For all the known infectious bacterial illnesses, the science points to other accurate explanations, namely starvation and poisoning. Isn't that interesting? Starvation and poisoning, right? However, the microscope gave scientists the ability to find germs at the site of disease. Remember, we thought it was the organs, and we thought it was the tissues, then we thought it was the blood, then we thought it was the this, and the da-da-da-da, and we're down to genes, and now we're giving you mRNA stuff. The microscope allowed medicine to enter a scientific age and provide a ready and easy explanation for illness, one that circumvented all of that more difficult and less profitable stuff like cleaning up the cities, improving diets, mitigating poverty, and reducing pollution. Isn't that great? The microscope gave us a way to go, hey, we have this printing press over here. We're just going to, people are only going to read this stuff in Latin. The commoners can't do it. The commoners can't read it. We're just going to have these microscopes. Nobody else will be able to see it. Isn't that great? So when a living organism is threatened through starvation, chemical poisoning, or electromagnetic effects, the cells and tissues have a mechanism for packaging, propagating, and releasing these poisons. Modern researchers have shown that exosomes have exactly the same attributes as viruses. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? They're the same size, contain the same components, act on the same receptors. There's now clear experimental evidence that exosomes made by one organism can be picked up by other organisms of the same or different species and cause protective reactions in these new organisms. Isn't that interesting? But we took little Johnny to Dollywood, and little Johnny caught a cold. Well, let me think. Dollywood is full of pesticides because there are no bugs in amusement parks. Then you ate crap food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then you went and swam in the hotel pool and sucked up a boatload of chlorine. And then you come home after a weekend of that debauchery and you say that little Johnny caught a cold. Isn't that interesting? It's a virus that you couldn't see, but you poisoned the shit out of him for 3 days, right? That's what we're saying there. It can be packaged up and you can think that, oh, he coughed on little Susie, little Johnny coughed on little Susie and she caught the cold. It can be transferred because the poisons are poisons to anybody. Make sense? Real pictures of fake viruses. If you just... I typed in pictures of real viruses just because I was curious, because I knew where the Lord was leading me on this, and I thought, you got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Everything that comes up, what is it? Cartoons. I even put in there pictures. I didn't put pictures of viruses. I put real viruses. And that's what it gives me. Computer animated cartoon like CG nonsense. It's almost like the moon landing. It's crazy. So here's your bonus. Most pictures of SARS-CoV-2 virus are computer generated by the Sussex University Art Department. Just a side note. Sussex, yeah. So they called it SARS-CoV-2 because they claim to have eradicated the SARS-CoV-1 a few years earlier, but never mind any of that. That's nonsense. You don't even need to pay attention to it. It was an elaborate branding and marketing gimmick. How do I know? Because I'm about to show you. An electron microscopy demonstrates little more than 2D artifacts of a 3D object. Because when you go back to that last picture, we're looking at stuff here that's 3D. That's one side of a 3D object. So all we're seeing is the 2D on a page, on a piece of paper. That's what that means. Go forward. Electron microscopy, you're only seeing 2D. You're seeing flat. Electron microscopy, you're looking at a piece of paper. That's what that says. Next. So this is strangely very similar to pictures and videos of all things, like anything NASA says, like, oh, here's our pictures of satellites, and here's our rockets, and here's our astronauts and space stations, and asteroids and space travel and galaxies and moon landings, and here's photos of Earth and blah, blah, blah. You know, we Photoshop it because it has to be.
That is what they said.
That is what they said.
They said last year.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we have cameras we have cameras in space, right? Why can't we zoom in on the moon and see the flag flapping? Why can't we zoom in on the rocket when it's launching from the Earth? Why can't we zoom in? Why don't we have 24/7 GoPro 4K footage of the Earth spinning? Think about it. International Fake Station, yes. And this right here, and go to, we got to hit that article. We got 2 articles and then we're out of here. The nature.com. I want you to see this. I want you to see this. This is crazy. So keep in mind. So it's all Photoshopped because it has to be, because we don't have footage of the world spinning anywhere. And anytime you see pictures of satellites, they're all computer generated. And how do we launch the rockets, but we don't hit any of the millions of satellites that are in the... How's that happen? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. Here's the journal Nature, scientific illustrations of SARS-CoV-2 in the media. I hate this. I hate even saying that. But here's an image demic. I want you to see this. We're just going to read the abstract, and I'm going to show you 2 pictures. The COVID pandemic has caused an overload of scientific information in the media, sometimes including misinformation or the dissemination of false content. This so-called infodemic, like an information pandemic, you see what they did, isn't that great? At a low intensity level is also manifested in the spread of scientific and medical illustrations of SARS. Since the beginning of the scamdemic, images of other long-known viruses, sometimes imaginary reconstructions of viruses that cause diseases in other non-human species have been attributed to the SARS-CoV-2. In a certain way, one can thus speak of a case of image-demic based on an alteration of the rigor and truth of informative illustrations in the media. Images that illustrate informative data have an influence on the emotional perception of viewers and the formation of attitudes and behaviors in the face of the current or future scamdemics. So, image disinformation should be avoided, making it desirable that journalists confirm the validity of scientific images with the same rigor that they apply to any other type of image, instead of working with fake, made-up images from photo stock services. This is an article in a massive peer-reviewed journal, a scientific journal. Nature. At a time when scientific illustration has great teaching power, high-quality information must be illustrated using images that are as accurate and real as possible. As for any other news topic. I'm sure they meant to say that. It's fundamental that informative illustrations about the COVIDs used in the media are scientifically rigorous. So scroll down, and we're going to look at the figure 2, the next figure down. Just so you know, scientific illustrations of the COVID's coronavirus. The first higher resolution cryogenic electron microscopy image obtained by the Cryo-EM Center of the Southern University of Science and Technology. Then B is the illustration created at the CDC by Alyssa Eckert and Dan Higgins. I'm going to read you something here in a minute. Created, photoshopped, fake, doesn't exist. Okay, then C, look at this, infographic based, so that's an infographic based on cryo-electron tomography. Oh, that sounds crazy. Created in false color by nanographics using data from Tsinghua University. The figures covered by the Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 international license. So fake, damn near fake. That's what that says. That's what all that says. Okay, so now let's go down to the next image. I just wanted you to see that. Alyssa Eckert and Higgins, you're going to see those names. Several television news programs with stage design and illustrations of the COVIDs. Now just look at those. Those all look familiar, right? Like you've seen stuff like that. This is in a journal called Nature. This is a massive journal. Like this is the journal that when Watson and Crick discovered DNA, this is the journal it was in, okay? Which was fake, by the way. But anyway, notice that it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So scroll down to the caption. A through M. No, stop, scroll. I just want to see A through M right here. A through M, all of these here. So A through M. Notice what it says. Fake COVIDs models or other viruses. N is a scientific illustration. O is real photos with retouched color. And P, where is P? Oh, and P, O and P. O and P are real photos with retouched color. So basically what this is showing you is everything that was on the news was absolutely made up fake. But wait, there's more. Go to the next, the spiky blob seen around the world. This is going to blow your mind. This is going to blow your mind. And then we're done. We got that, and then one more page, one more picture. Spiky blob seen around the world, April 7th, 2020. So this is almost a month after everything dropped, okay? My point is this, I don't want to relive the COVIDs any more than you do. I just want you to see like what they're doing. And what they're doing, if they did this with the COVIDs, imagine what they did with polio and smallpox. Imagine what they're doing with fantavirus and all the other stuff. Can you blow this up a little bit? No, just the article, just the letters, the words, just the whole thing. There you go, perfect. An image provided by the CDC, illustration of the COVIDs. Alyssa Eckert, Dan Higgins, illustrators of the CDC, were asked to create a beauty shot of the COVIDs to bring it to the public's attention. This is I'm not kidding. I found this by chance. I wasn't trying to find it, let's just say that. So how many times have you seen the image above? It looms behind newscasters during evening updates, gets handed out on printed flyers, scrolls by in tweet after tweet. It might even show up in your dreams. But for Alyssa Eckert, a medical illustrator at the CDC, why does the CDC have a medical illustrator? Who helped to create what has become the iconic representation of the novel COVIDs virus. It started out as just another assignment. On January 21st, the day after the CDC activated its Emergency Operations Center for a new coronavirus, Eckert and her colleague Dan Higgins were asked to create an identity for the virus. Something to do what? Grab the public's attention. Eckert expected that whatever they came up with might appear on a few cable news programs as their creations had in the past. Instead, as the scamdemic spread and intensified, her renderings reach did too. It started popping up around the world, she said. Gee, I wonder why. You're an illustrator for the CDC. How could this be possible? Eckert uses art to make difficult medical concepts more approachable. For instance, the dozens of illustrations of birth defects she's done over the years can be a little bit easier for people to look at and understand than photographs. Often, and birth defects, what did we talk about with birth defects last time? Guess what? All of them. Nutrition. Often, this means bringing the unseeable into view. One of her favorite recent illustrations of a cluster of Neisseria gonorrhea, the bacteria that causes gonorrhea, was used in a 2019 report on antibiotic resistance. In her portrayal, the bacteria float like jellyfish, their tentacle-like pili intertwined. The aim was to make them look like they're really alive. So you know to be aware of them.
Do they drug test this lady?
Can you believe this? Over the years, These two and their colleagues have taken a variety of approaches to viruses. Sometimes they'll represent a virus with its main vector. The CDC's Zika, there's one you haven't heard of in a while, right? How about Ebola? There's another one you haven't heard of, right? For example, highlights mosquitoes, or they'll focus on the virus's symptoms as they did for Ebola. But for the CV illustration, they went with what medical artists call a beauty shot, a detailed solo close-up. We just call attention to the one virus, she said. The novel COVIDs, like all viruses, is covered with proteins that give it its character and traits. These are the spike proteins, or the S proteins, the red clusters in the image, which allow the virus to attach to human cells. Really? Really? We haven't isolated it. Yeah. We don't even have it. How do you know? Then, you've got the E proteins, represented by the yellow crumbs, that help it to get into those cells. And then membrane proteins, shown in orange, give the virus its form. After researching and consulting with scientists, Eckert and Higgins found these in the RCSB protein databank, a repository of protein structures. We pull from that and compile it into a visualization software where they can move each piece around. Then, where other portrait artists might layer paint, the team layers programs. One piece of software, Autodesk 3ds Max, is where all the magic happens, Eckert says. We think of it as our photography studio. There they arrange the virus's parts and tested different colors, textures, and lighting. So the parts are fake, the colors are fake, the lighting is fake, everything's fake. That's what it's saying. And although there are more M proteins and other structures in the virus, they decided to foreground the spiky S's, whose effectiveness may be responsible for the virus's rapid spread. As they were styling the virus, other designers at the CDC were working on more COVID's materials. The illustration was going to have to go along with the branding. The branding, the marketing. Eckert said, so they tried color schemes that matched. Red on gray, orange and yellow accents. That was the most arresting. It just really stood out. The image took about a week to make, fast turnaround. She expects that success will set a standard. Next time a novel virus needs to be illustrated, it too will likely get a beauty shot. It has been certainly spread far and wide. She's seen her illustration turned into cookies and knitting projects. Someone recently told Eckert that her image haunts them on their occasional trips to the grocery store. If they reach out to touch something, they'll picture that spiky gray blob and pause. She was glad to hear it. She said, it's out there doing its job. Isn't that great? The spiky blob seen around the world 1 month after the COVIDs. So if they're doing that with the COVIDs, what are they doing with Ebola? What are they doing with Hanta? What are they doing with every other cold and flu? What are they doing with every virus? Last thing I'll show you is this, the first specimen. This is the very first picture. Now, I don't know about you, but when I look at that, all I see is virus. It's obvious, isn't it? It's obvious, isn't it? I mean, you're all supposed to nod and supposed to go, yeah, the emperor's clothes are really pretty. Yeah, the emperor's got some really nice duds, right? So the above picture, shared by China's National Microbiology Data Center, shows the first ever specimen of the novel COVIDs, known as 2019 nCoV, extracted from a patient. Yeah, extracted from a patient. Remember, how'd they do this? Bunch of snot, put it in a blender, you mix it with some streptomycin, you mix it with some antibiotics, you put some monkey blood and some cow's blood, put a bunch of dead baby, right?
It's like a satanic ritual.
That's how they do it. It is a satanic ritual.
It's a satanic ritual.
So remember, Stefan Lanka, what did Stefan Lanka say? He said, people are calling viruses, saying what viruses are, he's saying they're misrepresented images of dying cell components. I'd say he's right. So before, and understand, like, all the processes that had to go before, if this is even, how do you know that this isn't some Formica tabletop in some dude's house?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Right? Mm-hmm. Like, a while back, they were talking about galaxies and nebula, like 50 million light years away or whatever it was, and come to find out that it was a marble countertop at somebody's house. Taken with it was a blurry camera. And here's NASA going, oh yeah, this is a picture from millions of miles away. How's it possible? What's that? I don't know, it looks like marble, maybe some granite. Here's why it matters, okay? Now, keep in mind, the other stuff we're gonna cover is next time, we're going to get more into the EMF stuff. We're going to get more into the 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. We're going to get into, we had the radio, we had the radar, we had the satellite, we had the rollout of 5G. Why does this always, COVID started with a cruise ship? Why did the Fantavirus start with a cruise ship? What happens on cruise ships? Bad food, people on a bunch of meds, wearing a bunch of sunscreen, getting loaded, getting just 3 sheets to the dead, absolute crap-faced, eating crap food, sunscreen, suntan lotion, God knows what else, shooting up COVID viruses and vaccines. First time they've been in the sun all year. Drinking and eating like gluttonous pigs on a floating Wi-Fi router surrounded by 5,000 other fat, white, medicated American dudes, all getting loaded all day in the sun. How's that work? But of course it's a virus. It couldn't be any of the stuff we just mentioned.
No way.
A giant floating Wi-Fi router with 5,000 other cats that are just sicker than you are. Next. So we're almost done. So why does it really matter? So remember, all the stuff we're going to go through in depth. Like you're going to see, we built a case, we built part of it. You're going to see the rest of it, part 2. So why does it matter whether viruses exist? Well, number 1, the entire vaccine program would go down the toilet. So why does it matter? Because everybody you know is falling for this. Number 2, it exposes the false dilemma because you have all the Patriot Rumble channels over here saying that it was really a virus. And then you've got all the Patriot Rumble channels over here saying, no, it was a lab leak. But then you've got people like me going, well, if a virus doesn't exist, that's all of it's crap. Could they be a lab leak? Could they be developing bioweapons and poisons to spray out of drones and from robot dogs? Yeah, but that ain't a virus. That's a poison. And that's an exosome. That's your body takes that in, you spit it out, surrounded by a protein coat, you got some RNA, some DNA in there, boom. That's not a virus. That's a poison. Number 3, it would stop the senseless culling of animals because we've been killing birds and chickens and ostriches, beagles, Fauci and his beagle thing forever. And you have no idea, like every college, every research thing out there, how many rats, how many mice, how many guinea pigs, it's just sacrifice. That's what they call it. When you read a journal article, the animals were sacrificed. It's a sacrifice. Number 4, we'd start looking at the true causes of illness, like we would end the medical tyranny. We would get rid of the medical mafia monopoly nonsense from all these people who are trying to block out the sun and put vaccines in every person in the world, right? We would, why does it matter? Because we're overlooking metaphysical possibilities. Like, can that person be getting sick from emotions? Can they be getting sick from abuse? Can they be getting sick from invisible radio waves? Can they be getting sick from sleeping on top of a Wi-Fi router? Are they sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic postured whatever it is bed that's just this thing and it's springs and it's their Wi-Fi is cooking them? It's like sleeping in a Tesla, right? But they think they have some kind of virus, but it's just, it only happens when I sleep. Yeah, you know how many times I've heard that? It's unbelievable. People don't think about this. They're sleeping on a Wi-Fi router. That's what it is. Number 6, overlooking number 7, we realize the power of belief in health. Why does it matter? Because you'd realize your body's a lot more powerful than what you've been told. Number 8, we'd begin studying the biofield, like your body biofield. You walk into a room, you don't know, you didn't hear anything, but you walk in and you feel the tension to this, husband arguing with the wife, and you walk in and you feel it. That's biofield. You sense it, you know it, your intuition. Something doesn't feel right here. I want to get out of here. Too many snake worshipers. I need out. I need to leave. I need to knock somebody's head off. Somebody needs to bleed. No, I'm just kidding. We begin studying the biofield, your body's biofield, your bioelectromagnetic field. Number 9 would reclaim trust in the body's innate intelligence. You wouldn't be worried about a virus because it doesn't exist. You would be actually trusting your body instead of trusting some doctor telling you that we need to do a PCR test on you for the 15th time. Number 10, next. We'd stop fearing others who are sick. How many grandmas died in nursing homes because people were told that you're going to kill grandma is fake. Number 11, it sharpens your lens on other unproven assumptions. Like, I wonder if this is fake, then I wonder if chemotherapy and radiation, I wonder if antibiotics, I wonder if all the genetic stuff, I wonder if allergies exist. I wonder if there's really chemical imbalances. We've proven a lot of these are fake. We've proven they don't exist. People have symptoms, but they are not what they have been told are causing the symptoms. It exposes the limits of modern science. It reframes how we view history. If you all of a sudden look at Louis Pasteur as a plagiarist and a fraud who recanted everything he worked for on his deathbed, if you all of a sudden look at that and go, man, that's what we've all been taught with germ theory, you reframe all of history, right? It breaks the spell of medical authority. It calls us back to harmony with nature. We're not afraid of stuff in nature that we can't see anymore. We're living in harmony with it, the way that we were supposed to be. And it reveals the power of story to shape reality, and it shifts the entire paradigm of health and reality. This last little part, these 17 things, I didn't come up with. That's Alex Zek. I do want to give a shout out to him. I want to also say there are doctors out there like Stephen Lanka and Sam Bailey, the Baileys, and Tom Cowan and Kaufman and all these guys. There are a lot of people out there who have been propagating this and really digging through the research of the last 150 years of medical research and going, yep, here's another article with just the same, here's how we isolate the virus. Here's another article, same way. Here's another article, same way. We've never seen it. It's never happened in real life. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants for some people. This right here, this is from Alex Zek. Very well thought out, and we're going to cover these in more detail in the next one. I just wanted to give you the big picture. Here's what we're going to learn in part 2. What about the measles outbreaks? Because everybody's worried about the kids, the measles. There's a new hantavirus outbreak. Doesn't have to be a virus. Nope, but I'm sick. How can you say it's not a virus? I know we covered these at the very beginning, but this is what we're going to cover in part 2. What about the Spanish flu? What about the virus isolation thing? Why do people actually get sick? The invisible rainbow, implications of increased EMFs, the Enders paper that proved isolation. I'm going to pull up the actual PDF of the journal article from 1954, and I'm going to let you read it. It's going to be right here on the screen, and you're going to go, this is the paper that proved that we isolated viruses. And you are going to read all the stuff I just mentioned about snot, cow's blood, fetal cells. It's actually fetal bovine serum. So it's not just cow's blood. It's actually cow's blood, baby cow, fetal cow, cow's blood. And then here's the streptomycin, here's the penicillin, and here's how we got the virus. It says it right in the paper. You can read it, and then if you want, I can pull up 50 other papers. I can go right to the material and methods section and go, here it is, almost word for word. Here's what they do. We don't isolate anything. So definition of the virus isolation thing, problems with virus isolation, this is going to blow your mind. It's going to blow your mind. And where are all the viral particles? If you Google something and you say how many viral particles are in a sneeze, it'll be somewhere between 20 and 50, 200 million, something like that. Well, if there are no viruses, how do they know that sneezing, it's all fake? You can't get sick from somebody sneezing on you because the virus doesn't exist, because there are no viral particles in the sneeze. That's just what they're telling you. But we'll cover that. Then we'll get into who cares, why would they do this, and then we'll say, why does it even matter? And we'll cover the 17 points in detail next time. And that one will be a butt kicker. And there it is in one picture. Thank you. He really enjoyed it. See that? There it is in one picture. Germ theory versus terrain theory. See, and notice the fish is in a bag. He's wearing a mask. He's isolated from the environment, right? So we have to vaccinate the fish. But over here, all you got to do is clean the tank. That is one picture that explains both theories very well. So, I'm so glad I cut this. That's less than halfway through. So there's no way we would have been through this whole thing. So part 2 is going to be equally offensive, and it's going to be equally revelatory, because we're going to cover some stuff you've never heard of. Questions before we go? Anything else? And that's June 15th?
Shouldn't it be Juneteenth?
No, not at all. What do we got? Questions? Anything before we go? Not amused. Juneteenth. No. Anything before we go? Questions, thoughts, cries of outrage, anything? Nancy, what do you think?
We live in a world of lies.
Your head's spinning. I see. Yep. 35 years of nursing right here.
I just want to know why Jesus didn't contract leprosy when he touched the man with the leprosy and healed him, even though he was part man and part God. So it kind of supports the virus is not contagious.
Well, but leprosy is a bacteria.
Leprosy is a bacteria. Okay.
Yeah. So bacterial stuff can be there. I mean, we've never demonstrated it in a laboratory, but by all accounts, you should be able to share bacteria. But like in the next class where we'll talk about like colds and flus, and we'll talk about like STDs, we'll talk about pellagra, because they used to think pellagra was a virus, but pellagra was a nutritional deficiency. They used to think scurvy was a pathogenic thing, but scurvy was a nutritional deficiency, right? So we'll cover the STDs, we'll cover some of we'll probably answer that question in the next one. Because STDs is another big, well, they don't call them STDs, they call them STIs now. But that's her question was, why didn't Jesus contract leprosy when he touched the lepers? And I mean, if he was part man, right? Part man, fully God, right? We'll answer some of that because we'll talk about pellagra, we'll talk about scurvy, we'll talk about colds and flus, we'll talk about what's the other? We'll talk about STDs because that's an interesting one right there because those are all supposed to be mainly those are all supposed to be bacterial. So we'll talk about that. Yes.
So just to clarify, it sounds like you're saying that when they're messing with viruses, they identify a virus based on whether it will die when they put an antibiotic on it or when they poison it. Is that literally that's their definition of, oh, okay, we see that it's dying, therefore that's the virus? Is that how they frame it? Is that how the medical community frames it?
I'm not following. Say that again.
Well, you were saying that they take the virus and they put it on a slide and then they affect it with a bunch of stuff. Like they'll burn it, they put antibiotics on it.
Yeah.
They what was
talking
the other thing? They put like alcohol on it and then they say, "Oh, it's dying. That's our virus."
I think you're combining two things.
Okay.
I was talking about like in a biology laboratory or microbiology laboratory where you're using bacteria, cultures of bacteria, and you take it and you smear it on a thing, and then you heat it, you stain it, you can do that. But remember, viruses are supposed to be like thousands of times smaller than bacteria, right? So with viruses, there's no way that you're going to see, supposedly, you're not going to see any of the stuff unless you have a scanning electron microscope or some kind of big, giant transmission electron microscope or something that only universities and research foundations would be able to afford. So when I'm talking about like in biology laboratories, when you do microscope stuff, that's mainly bacteria stuff. The other stuff that I was talking about with like viruses, how do you culture a virus out of a sick person, pull it out, culture it, purify it so that you have only pure virus and then put it in a healthy person and get the same disease in the healthy person as you had out of the sick person, right? So I think
I did. I conflated the two, I think.
Yeah, I was just using
the
slides in a microbiology laboratory as kind of a parallel to we damage the thing we're trying to look at, and then we describe what we're looking at. Same thing as viruses.
Okay. Can I ask another question?
Yeah, go for it.
For the coach postulates, why is it necessary for the why can't, in that first step, it said the disease should not be found in the control animal?
Because you're trying to determine the causation of a pathogen.
Okay.
You're trying to figure out, or you're trying to determine the causation of a disease from a pathogen.
If two people have typhoid and one has symptoms, then typhoid may not cause the symptoms.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it may be like they might have a rash and you're trying to determine what causes this rash. Like say measles. With measles, you're trying to figure out what's causing this rash. Why are they turning red? And so the logic of the experiment would be, we pull the stuff out of the measles kid, we purify it, we isolate it, then we put it into the non-measles kid, and if we have the same symptoms, that proves causation, that this disease is caused by a wee beastie that we just call measles.
Right.
But if that kid, the original kid, doesn't have any symptoms, how are you, or say they do have symptoms, it could be that there's 50 other different viruses in them. How do you know which one you're culturing?
It can't be the cause that you think it is.
Right.
If you have two people, and that's why the whole COVID thing was such a scam, because they're like, oh, well, you're asymptomatic.
Right.
But you have it in you. And it's like, well, okay, then that's not the cause of what's going on.
Right.
Okay.
And take that another step further, and we'll talk about this a little bit in the part 2. So if the virus didn't exist, what were the PCR tests?
Yeah.
Because everybody was getting a swab in the back of the brain and getting a test run to figure out if they had what? A virus, which didn't exist.
Yeah, so what was the PDR
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, so what was the PCR? That's
Was
just
it to put something into you?
that's what we told people from day one. Like, don't get this stuff.
We actually had a friend who is a nurse. He's currently a nurse. And he said, there's no way that thing is getting stuck up my nose.
Right.
And
Because-
he's in the business. He knows there's something going on.
And it was automatically a scam, and everybody should have thought about it, because they're telling you to stay away 6 feet away from people. And so this thing can travel. Remember, you're at a restaurant, you're sitting down, it can't get you. You're standing up, it's free game. Remember?
You can eat,
Like,
eat without a mask.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Remember, this is a smart virus we're talking about. But remember, it's so smart. Remember, it's so smart that it doesn't have to have a brain or anything. It's non-living. So remember, it can find out if you're seated or if you're standing. Remember? So I forget where we were going with that. What was the thing? Oh, and the so the COVIDs.
The government, by the way.
Yeah, so the COVIDs, like the whole thing, the scam, they told people you had to stay 6 feet away, but this thing is so powerful that, you have to kill it, but you can catch it from 6 feet away, but in order to find it on you, we have to cram a thing up in your brain. That's how strong it is. Like, we can't just have you spit in a cup, we can't just rub your lip, right? We have to, in your brain. Why? Well, that's where it lives. No, really, why? Well, that's what we're going to tell you, and you're going to believe it. Well, that's just where it lives. That's where it congregates. Well, then if it congregates there, why can't we isolate it? Why is it that no lab in the world has an isolated, purified sample of the COVIDs or the Ebola or the flu or any of the colds or any of the STDs or any of the other viruses? No lab in the world has any of this stuff. And we've had 100 years with the smallpox and the polio. So really, what were they doing?
Wasting a lot of everybody's time and money.
Time and money, and then what? Doing what they were doing with the genetics class, which is changing your blood and your DNA and your genetic material. I hate even using the word DNA anymore, because that's probably fake too, but your genetics, your genetic material. So it was all a farce. So the PCR test too, and we'll get into this in the next one, it was all created in a computer program. The testing, the chunks of DNA, the nucleotides, the sequencing. We've sequenced the genome of the virus and we know the thing. No, you didn't. It was in a computer program. You just put pieces together, pieces together, pieces together. You're trying to put together, the complete works of Sherlock Holmes by having a bunch of different chopped up phone books. And it's never going to work. And so you've got this thing that just becomes the genome for the COVIDs, and then one lab shares that computer code with another lab, shares it with another lab, and then they make all these PCR tests, and then they're slamming your stuff and sending it to China or whatever, and then spitting out a cycling thing that says, yeah, you've got it and you don't. So you go get the vaccine and you don't. I mean, it was just a numbers game. It was all fake. All of it. All of it was fake. But people fell for it because it was on TV. It's horrible. So it's all fake. So if you don't have a virus, what is a vaccine? And if you don't have a virus, what's the PCR test? All right? So that's your homework for you. Think about that. Contemplate that. Anything else? Jonathan, you good?
Oh, yeah.
Are we good? Did you learn anything?
Oh, yeah.
All righty. All right. So we'll see you June 15th. Dr. Brett Spradlin, Divine Design, Natural Health. We'll see you for You Don't Have a Virus Part 2 in a month.